10 million of these tasty treats that I'm going to inform you guys about made in the US alone. There are many types of donuts out in the world that you guys could buy. They have a very unique way of making them, such as frying or baking a donut, and they can be easy to hard, or they can take a long time to make, or they could be a quick recipe. So first I'm going to talk to you guys about the types of donuts that you could buy at a grocery store, at a gas station in the morning, and then I'm also going to talk to you guys about the ways of making a donut and the ingredients that people might use in them. And then lastly, I'm going to talk to you guys about the types of donuts I made and the steps to make them in the final product. So this is a yeast donut, and donuts are broken down into two categories, a yeast donut and a cake donut. And so in a yeast donut, they obviously have yeast in them, which makes them rise. They have a lighter texture, and if you have it in your hand versus a cake donut, it actually is lighter just because of the yeast. And this is also a yeast donut, and it's a cream filled. And this is a jelly filled donut, which is also a yeast donut. And then you have a cake donut, which, like I said, is a denser texture because it has baking soda in it, so it doesn't actually rise and have air pockets in it like a yeast donut does. And these are also a quicker type of donut because when you have a rising donut, you actually have to let it rise, and that takes a while. So an old-fashioned donut that you guys might have had before, that also is a cake donut. And then a cider donut, it actually has apple cider in it, so around like when orchards have apples, sometimes they'll sell cake donuts like this. And there's apple fritter donuts, which has pieces of apple in it. And then there's twisted donuts, which have different kinds of frosting, like maple, chocolate, glazed, and cinnamon sugar. And those can be cinnamon donuts or just twisted. Then there's long johns, which can be cream filled also, or jelly filled. And then there's a glazed donut, which is just a type of frosting on it. And then there's a French curler donut, which is something different that you might not see every day. And then there's mini donuts, and some people think the best thing is donut holes, which can be powdered sugar, chocolate, and those can even be jelly filled also. Okay, so then, like I said, you can either bake or fry a donut. So when you bake a donut, you can buy a pan like this one where you just fill the reservoirs and then you bake it in the oven. And then there's also frying a donut, which you would just fry it in oil. So then, like I said, there's yeast donuts and baking soda donuts. So yeast is something that helps the donut rise, which, like I said, takes a longer amount of time because you actually have to let it sit and rise. And this is just what it looks like, what people would add, and you probably add around like 2 tablespoons into your mixture. It just depends on the batch of donuts you're making and how many you're planning on making. So then if you had a yeast donut, you can put it in a mixer with a dough hook and you can just mix it. And then you're going to have to let it rise and you're going to have to knead it by hand, which is going to take a little bit of time. Or you can use a bread machine which bakes bread, and there's a function on it that's just for dough. So you put all your ingredients into the bucket and you wouldn't mix those, and you just put it into the bread machine and it's going to rise and knead it for you, so it's a little bit easier. And then you have baking powder donuts. So when you put baking powder in it, it creates a denser donut. It rises a little bit, but it doesn't have air pockets in it like a yeast donut would. And so when you have a baking powder donut, you just put it into a bowl and whisk it, which is a little bit easier if you don't have a lot of time. So then you can fry those, or you can bake them in the pan like I showed you guys for baking a donut. So now that I've talked to you guys about the types of donuts that there are and the kinds of donuts you could make and what you would need, I'm going to talk to you guys about the donuts I made. So I chose to make a baking powder donut, so a cake donut, because it is a little bit quicker, and when you fry a donut the day after, it might not be as good just because it's not hot anymore. And a cake donut tends to stay as good just when you bake it a little bit longer. So those are the ingredients I put into my donuts. So you're going to take your dry ingredients and you're going to just put them into a bowl, and then you will put them in a sifter. And a sifter it makes sure that you don't have any lumps or anything in the flour, your dry ingredients. If you didn't have a sifter, you could just use a whisk to break up any lumps in your dry ingredients. Then you're going to put your wet ingredients into a cup and you're going to whisk it because I had eggs in it and you just wanted to beat that so there wasn't chunks. Then you're going to add it all together and you're just going to whisk it up because You're gonna spray your pan just so when you put your batter in it, when you take it out of the oven, it doesn't stick to your pan. And then you're gonna fill it up, and you can just take a spoon, it's pretty easy to fill that up. And you're gonna put it into a 375 oven, and you're gonna bake it for around 7 minutes. So while you're baking it, you can make the frosting that you're gonna put on top of your donut. So I just made a chocolate glaze. So it has corn syrup, chocolate chips, and butter. And you microwave that for about a minute or less. And then you mix it up, and over there is water. So you're gonna stir a little bit of water into it to make it smoother. And then when they're done, you are going to dip them into your frosting after you waited about 4 minutes, just so they're not too hot. And then there's my final product. So then, like I said, there's 10 million donuts made yearly, so you guys could be one of the people that eat one of those donuts. There are many types, so I hope I informed you guys well on the types of donuts there are, so if you ever need to make one, you could make the donut that best fits your time schedule.